As per usual, I'm extremely late with this video, but as I always say, better late than never. I think I've only ever said that once, but regardless, the video's here now, okay? So on May 26th, a man who goes by the name Yonko Productions announced that Eden Zero was getting an anime. Now, some of you may not understand why this is even video-worthy. Some random guy announcing that Eden Zero was getting an anime? What? How could he know? Well, that's the thing. He's not some random guy, this is what he does. He has access to a whole bunch of information and he leaks stuff like this all the time. I don't know how he has access to that information, but he just does, okay? Connections, that's what it'll get you. Clout. But to get back on track, and as a matter of fact, on May 26th, Eden Zero wasn't the only series he announced that was getting an anime. Yonko also announced like 4 others, I think. Now, I know some people may be rightly worried about the validity of this announcement, considering the fact that he's not an official source. While that may be true, again, this is what Yonko does, and he has a pretty good track record. But if you don't want to get your hopes up, just obviously take what he said with a grain of salt. And honestly, I did the same thing at first, because Yonko has missed his mark a few times, even though he has a pretty good track record. But everything was already lining up for an anime announcement. I think we all knew that something like this was right around the corner. Eden Zero is almost at 100 chapters, it's almost been out for 2 years, the reception is wildly positive, and the popularity of the series keeps rising. The manga volume sales have also been pretty good as well. And many other manga have shared these same factors and they have gotten or are getting an anime. Also, Hiro Mashima announced that he had like 5 different announcements this year, and if you didn't think one of those announcements was going to be an Eden Zero anime, I don't know what to tell you, bro. So with Eden Zero basically confirmed to be getting an anime, there are now 2 things I want to discuss. The first is how much I think Season 1 will possibly cover. By the way, I'm assuming this will be a seasonal anime. I think I've said this before, but please, Kodansha, Hiro, and who's ever animating it, make the anime seasonal. But speaking of who's ever animating it, that's the second thing I want to discuss, is which studio will take on the project. So let's just get into it. How much of the manga would Season 1 cover? This is a bit of a hard question to answer because there isn't like a set standard for how many chapters are used within a particular season. I mean, look at My Hero Academia. Its first season only covered about 21 chapters. But then you look at something like The 7 Deadly Sins, and its first season covered 100+ chapters. Now, with full transparency here, MHA's first season only had about 13 episodes, while The Sins had 24. But even still, if you do the math and you give MHA 11 more episodes, the season would still only cover at most like 50 chapters. Which brings me back to my initial point, the manga coverage varies. Which means I'm gonna guess. And my guess is that the first season would go up to chapter 28. Now, I chose this chapter in particular because, in my opinion, it'd be a pretty good stopping point for the anime. That is the end of the amazing Gillis arc. The main crew, Shiki, Hamura, Weiss, and Rebecca have come together, and the season would end off with just a glimpse at the big bad himself, Drake and Joe. High-key, I actually think ending it at chapter 28 is perfect. You get tons of action and story throughout the entire season that ends with a semi-cliffhanger that is, like I said, Drake and Joe himself. And bro, you cannot tell me that that would not make waves throughout the internet, bro, as well as throughout the Eden Zero fandom. It would be hype. But enough about that though, because it's time to talk about which studio will take on Eden Zero. This is a difficult question to answer, to the point where it's basically impossible. So the question is really just who I would like to see animate Eden Zero. Now, right off the bat, I got one studio I don't want to animate Eden Zero, and that is A1 Pictures. I don't hate the studio or anything, and I think I've said this before, but A1 never really gave Fairy Tail the quality it deserved, especially not with the final season. So while I do like their work, I just don't really trust them with Hiro Mashima's work, if that makes any sense, which it should. But now onto studios I would like to see animate Eden Zero. I have 3 in mind, and if it's announced to be any of these, I will be so happy. But anyways, the first, and this is in no particular order, mind you, is Wit Studio or Studio Wit. They are responsible for anime such as Attack on Titan and Vinland Saga. And just off of that, you know that they would do Eden Zero justice with the animation quality, and they would make it so epic. My second is David Productions. They are responsible for shows like JoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Bento, and Fire Force. This studio would also bring the animation quality, and they would make the fights amazing. My third and final is Studio Trigger. They're responsible for things such as Kill la Kill, Darling in the Franxx, and Promare. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but who cares? This studio could bring a very interesting style to Eden Zero, the animation quality would be on point, and the studio is familiar with space anime. But hey, like I said, I'd be happy if it was any of them. But anyways, with all that out of the way, that is going to bring this video to a close. But let me know in the comment section down below, how much of the manga do you think Season 1 will cover? And what animation studio would you like to take on Eden Zero? And while you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe as well, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody! Also, make sure you stay safe out there. The world is crazy right now.